Season 3, Episode 3 has set up so many storylines for the rest of this season, and it has to be one of the best episodes of Season 3 by far. If you are not all caught up with this season or the series, be sure to save this video and come back later because there will be spoilers ahead. I love how Jim actually decides to act like a father for once, and that's only because he's getting a call from the ghost of his son, which if you think about it is ironic because the whole reason that Thomas passed away was because they were distracted by a phone call. And I honestly think that the phone calls and the voices on the radio are tricks by the devil being played on Jim, because Jim, if he is the hangman or the Joker in the tarot cards, is easily impressionable. And we saw this last season when he so wrongfully believed in Randall after 24 hours and then started questioning Boyd and everyone in the town, thinking that they were against him. And then Tabitha had to convince him that he was not thinking clearly. I would like to point out this scene right here because although Elgin was barely in this episode, it is very, very suspicious the way these characters are set up. Since it's the end of season 2, I have said that something is going on between the three of them. And if you've watched my theory videos about Tilly, then you know that I think that she's either an advanced monster who escaped and came back to FROMland on purpose, or she is a witch. And after seeing her with the tarot cards, I am now more convinced that she may indeed be a witch. I know a lot of people say that we don't get answers, but we've gotten a lot of answers this season so far. We now know mothers are chosen to go inside from to rescue the 7 children to help people escape the town. That is one big answer, but even Tabitha herself says, I need answers. Girl, you're trying your best to get them. It kind of bummed me out that all the character development that she and Henry had in the last few episodes of the season was thrown out the window in just a few moments by her finding a replica of the bracelet she made for Jim. Now I know a lot of people think what Tabitha is thinking, that she was in a extension of the forest and that she was just in a different level of the town. I don't think that's the case. I truly think that she was in the real world, and one of the things I'm using as evidence for that is the phone call she made to her mother, which the only thing that could debunk that is the fact that Jim has gotten phone calls and radio calls from other people that he did not expect. However, because Tabitha actually called her mother and the number worked and she was able to speak to her mother and the website had the family missing on the news, I think that she truly did escape the real world. She, was having some kind of trauma, thinking that she is still inside from. And it really bummed me out how quick she was willing to stop helping Victor's father just to try to escape once again when she clearly has already escaped. And we know she did actually escape because if she didn't enter into the real world from the lighthouse at the end of season 2, then there would be no reason for the ambulance to need a tree to enter the town. Henry and Tabitha start arguing and get into a car accident. They end up in this ambulance with 3 new characters who are going to be coming to town in the next episode. And Tabitha very quickly realizes what's going on and the episode ends there. And if you have seen previews for next week's episode and the season overview preview trailer, then you know that that is the same ambulance 1069 that was out front of the hospital when Tabitha started at the beginning of the season, escaping to avoid the cops. I know that there are some fans that recall that there is an ambulance in town already, but that is from a previous cycle of the game. That is not the ambulance that shows up in the next episode that was in front of the tree at the end of this episode. And we know that because in one of the previews for this season and for the upcoming episode, you can see the nurse monster holding the key to the ambulance, paramedics on the ground, the cop pointing their pistol at one of the monsters, soon to realize that the pistol is not going to work against those monsters, and the nurse monster telling Boyd, you can't save all of them. We still do not know what the fate of Tabitha and Henry are at the moment, but it is clear from the upcoming synopsis of future episodes that Tabitha does survive this night. So we can expect a reunion between Tabitha and her family, as well as Victor and Henry in the upcoming episodes. Getting back to Fatima and Tilly, Fatima does look healthier in this episode because of her rotten vegetable diet. Tilly may justify her odd cravings once she spots her eating the composted rotten food as pregnancy things. I don't think that's the case. I really think that Tilly is a witch. Tilly conveniently has these tarot cards that read her the answers to the questions that she has. Very suspicious, witchy thing to do to have tarot cards. Maybe that's what brings her peace and why she's so laid back of a character. She is trying to get close with Fatima to trust her to maybe do something with the baby. At the same time, I don't think that Fatima is actually pregnant, and I think that Tilly knows that. Fatima and Tilly have to go through this back and forth for her to be convinced to use the tarot cards in the first place. And Tilly is doing her best to bond with Fatima to gain her trust. Could it be that this Tilly, who is a witch, is the one who creates the monsters? Because she knows that if she uses the cards to get answers inside of the dimension of From, the crows will interrupt those answers. Crows and ravens can be seen as a sign of impending doom or death but I think that they are trying to allude to the fact that Fatima is becoming a monster herself. And what makes me think that is the girl who was trying to date the guy in Colony House from season 2, telling the guy that she was not always this way, as well as what Boyd says at the beginning of the episode in the sheriff's office to Donna and Ellis about believing what Christy said during the autopsy of the Smiley monster last season, that these look like they were once human. And it would make a lot of sense why so many characters are dated into the 1950s, milk person, etc. Elgin finally got to sleep for the first time in like a week, and then the crow woke him up like, can y'all just let this man rest? Because we did not get anything from him in this episode. We also see the return of this lady whose grandmother was the one that told her the nursery rhyme, the curse that the 3 townspeople, Julie, Marielle, and Randall, experienced from the ballerina music box at the end of season 2. And I think that that's very important because after the scene of her and Ethan and Boyd in the diner, we see Randall having a hallucination about cicadas. In the previous episode, we saw Julie talking to Sarah about her being worried about From and the monsters having gotten to her mind after the curse was broken. Marielle herself seems a little bit too optimistic and helpful. I'm wondering if the woman whose grandmother knew about the nursery rhyme was to allude to the fact that those 3, although Boyd saved them, are subconsciously influencing people in town to do bad things. Jade and some of the townspeople pulled straws to see who would go collect the vegetables by what is presumed to be the Lake of Tears. There is a drawing of Victor's that shows an eye crying over a lake with a bunch of vegetables around it, and it is presumed that that is the one next to this village. And I'm theorizing that the vegetables showed up the next morning after Tang Chen's passing away because Boyd spent all night crying, filling the Lake of Tears to produce new food. I really wish Jade had not messed with the sculpture, because once he did that, the spirit that was stuck to the tree with a railroad spike was actually freed and then was drinking blood out of the you-know-what. And I think that was giving Jade instructions on a ritual to perform. The same way the ballerina inside the church was giving Boyd instructions how to get the blood that would kill the monsters. Acid trip that Henry and Miranda had that gave her all the visions about From and what was going on. I really believe that although we didn't see the original bottle tree, it could be the key for everyone to escape the town. I would like to bring it to Tilly and the crows one more time before I go, because this is not the only time we've seen these crows or ravens. They usually show up when someone's about to figure something out. And what leads me to believe that is one of the last times we saw these crows to be the eyes of the monsters during the daytime, to keep eyes and ears on the townspeople to know what they're up to, was at the beginning of the series, season 1, episode 1, when the Matthews family was about to find out that they were stuck in the town. There was still so much I could have unpacked about this episode, but I wanted to focus on things that really stood out to me, especially this scene right here, because I promise you before the end of the season, the story between these 3 will come into play. And I really, really think it has something to do with someone getting drowned. And I don't think that Jim is going to make it to the end of this season, but that's a whole different topic for later.